Well, opening statements are set to begin this morning in New Mexico. This is in that high-profile Rush shooting trial where the armorer, Hannah Gutierrez Reed, is charged with involuntary manslaughter. She loaded that gun that went off, killing cinematographer Halyna Hutchins back in 2021. Gutierrez Reed pleaded not guilty. Alec Baldwin, who was holding the gun when it went off, also faces a charge of involuntary manslaughter, and he's scheduled to go on trial this summer. He's also pleaded not guilty. We welcome now trial attorney and legal analyst Misty Marris. Misty, it's always great to see you. So many questions surrounding this case. As you know, the defense argues Gutierrez Reed has been made the scapegoat of this tragic accident. What do they have to do to convince a jury she's not guilty in this case?
Something that they're very, very focused on is placing the blame on others. So we know some of the arguments are going to be that Alec Baldwin did not take his safety training seriously. He was the one who was holding that prop gun, and he was the one who allegedly pulled the trigger. Now, the next piece of this is that they're going to say the producers were rushing this production, that they wanted to come in under budget and in a truncated time frame, and that Hannah Gutierrez Reed actually proposed additional safety protocols, which they said no to because they were more concerned about getting the movie done efficiently. There's also a victory for the defense. There's an OSHA report. Now, that's a state agency who makes determinations about health and safety standards on a work site. They determined that it was production who created an unsafe environment with protocols that were not fully in place from a safety perspective. So that report is actually coming into the courtroom. And those are going to be the three pillars of Hannah Gutierrez Reed's defense. Really
interesting. And I want to dive a little bit deeper into how some of that strategy may impact the upcoming legal cases. But first, how important do you think this evidence of alleged drug use is to the prosecution's case that they're making?
So this was a really big surprise because we knew from pretrial motions and filings that actually sobriety testing was not done on the day of this tragic incident. And so the way that this is coming into the courtroom is through Hannah Gutierrez Reed's text messages, which reference acquiring and taking drugs prior to the incident, even including the night before. So the prosecution, in order to show this reckless standard, are saying that she not only brought the live rounds to the set, she loaded the live rounds, and that she was not in the right state of mind. She was impaired because she had been using drugs around this time. So this is a big piece of all of the factors which go into proving that reckless standard. And again, it's not just about bringing those bullets to the set, which, by the way, that's the prosecution's theory. We don't know what evidence supports that yet. That will be revealed during the trial. But they also say that there were ample opportunities for her to identify that these bullets were live and that they weren't the dummy rounds, and to correct it before this tragic incident happened. But she did not. And part of that is she's hungover, that she was impaired at the time. So it's a big piece of the case, and it was a pretty big victory for the prosecution to get that in through text messages without any toxicology.
Wow, really interesting. So to your previous point, and some of the pillars of this case, the defense, you were saying, will likely try to throw Baldwin and other members of the cast and crew under the bus, telling the jurors that the set was total chaos, I'm imagining. Misty, could that impact Baldwin's case in any meaningful way?
Yeah, absolutely. So the set and the protocols that were in place, we're going to see two experts who are going to talk about what should have happened and whether or not there were deviations from the standard, the roles of every individual on that set with respect to the maintenance, care, and safety procedures, especially with that prop gun. All of that's going to be mirrored in Alec Baldwin's trial. And look, if Hannah Gutierrez Reed is convicted, he has another strong defense with respect to her actions resulting in this horrible incident. And so remember, his defense is actors really have no responsibility with respect to prop guns. It's the armorer. So this trial is very, very relevant to what we'll see happening with Alec Baldwin as early as this summer.
Really interesting. So on the right side of your screen, you're taking a live look in that courtroom in Santa Fe. I have to get your prediction, Misty. Baldwin due to go on trial this summer. Do you think he'll be found guilty in this case?
It's really, really difficult to tell. The case against Alec Baldwin is very tricky because there's a whole argument that, number one, he's not responsible for the maintenance of the gun. They're also using a legal theory which said he was a producer, so therefore he has responsibility for safety on the set. But there's potential evidence that the gun malfunctioned. It's going to be a lot of expert testimony in his trial. And so given that it's so fact specific, we're going to have to see how it plays out in the courtroom. Now, his attorneys have promised to move to dismiss the case prior to trial based on what they say were issues with the grand jury proceedings. So there's a lot that's going to happen before we even get into his case, and that case moves forward in the courtroom.
All right, and we will be watching. We're hearing now the jury is entering the courtroom. Misty Marris, thank you, as always, for your insight.